Hey guys, so today I wanted to talk about the importance of the Godhead. And I want to keep these videos short and sweet. Like, it's just something to give you something to think about and question, maybe go do your own research, because I mean, I'm no pastor, but I am a Christian, and I feel like as long as you connect with God, there's a lot that you can share with others that would help. Or, you know, we can always use each other on this journey of faith. And there's always one part of the Godhead typically that most people will relate to. I don't think that's the case for everybody. I think some actually have a really good balance of it all. But my lesson in this was that I always used to think that I connected with God best because I just related to him as my dad, as my father, and I would always pray to him, and even the Holy Spirit, I would call on the Holy Spirit to come into a space, to cover my child if he's not feeling well, or to just keep my baby company at night and stuff like that. But the one part of the Godhead, which we as Christians, believe in, God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit, is that for me, I didn't relate to Jesus, and I didn't know how to relate to Jesus. And I didn't really think that was a big deal. I mean, I was like, yeah, okay, well, so yeah, Jesus is there, okay. I know what he did, but I think for a lot of us, we don't really grasp the weight of exactly what that means, what he did for us. And that's something, of course, I mean, there's so much to learn in our faith. It's so, like, it just never ends. And it's through experiences and walking with God and talking to him and letting him show you and teach you that these things come to light. So I went for what's called a sozo session. I don't know if you've heard of these, but I went for a sozo session. And for me, because different people have very different experiences of this, because spirituality is very specific. It's between you and God, and it can be so different. Like, between Rob also had it, and our experiences were completely different. My experience of it was that it was a space where it was a space created where I could just hear God and be able to hear his voice, because I've never been able to do that. It sounds simple, but not really. I mean, how do you hear God? I learned that I could hear his voice in whatever way he speaks to me. And so I had that experience. I had this space where I could go and hear God and ask him questions and all this. It was an amazing session. But in that session, when I was asked, who do you want to speak to? And I said, I want to speak to God, because that's who I relate to the most and the easiest. And I was surprised to see that I couldn't reach him. Not that he couldn't hear me, but I couldn't hear his response to me. So I asked Jesus a question and asked him to show me why I couldn't hear God. Is when things started to happen, and answers started to come through. And what surprised me about that, and what was the lesson in that I took away from that, was you're constantly hearing that you have to go through Christ to get to God. And I didn't understand what that meant. I mean, sure, like one praying, would say in Jesus Christ's name and all that, but I could not connect or hear God until I went through Jesus, until I acknowledged him, and I'm still learning. This isn't something that I've figured out. I'm still learning every day. And the cool thing about after the sozo session is that I've been having glimpses of who he is and the role that he plays in my life. I even got to see how far back I started to relate to Jesus, because I did as a child. That's who I used to talk to. And I'm still learning not when to relate to him, because you can relate to any part of God at any time, but it's almost like each part of God has a role. The Spirit has a role, Jesus has a role, God has a role, but it's all one and the same. But my point in this was this, that before I actually acknowledged Jesus, even though, yes, I knew he had died for my sins and I accepted that and I believed in that, before I actually recognized him as someone that I need to absolutely be aware of and get to know about and learn about, because now I realized, actually, you know what, I don't know Jesus. I don't know who he is in my life. And it's important. It's so important for you to know who Jesus is in your life, because he is that connection between you and God. What I want you to take away from this short video today is, do you know Jesus and what his role is in your life? And if you don't, then I think that's something that you need to explore, as I am right now at this point in time in my faith as well, because it's important. It's important, and don't take it for granted. There's more to God than just God himself. There's the other parts of him that are important, the Holy Spirit and Jesus. And if you don't know him, go and find out more about him. Go and learn about Jesus and what he's about. Go read the word anywhere that's written about Jesus and pray and talk to him, because he's so good. He will absolutely reveal himself to you and what his role in your life is, if you will pay attention to it. So that's your little bit of wisdom today. I hope that blessed you in some way, and yeah, have a great weekend. Bye.